Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and I want to talk about Reacher Season 1 and Season 2. We just finished Season 2, so Season 2 is the reason we're talking about Reacher. But I wanted to talk about Reacher, and in context to Dungeons & Dragons, and there's a conversation that you and I need to have as Dungeon Masters and Dungeon Performers to honor Gary Gygax and to think about player characters fairly. Okay, all right, let's jump into this. Woo! All right, boy, I love you guys to death, and the reason why is I am incredibly thankful to have been born when I was born, so that I could see I've been able to see every day of the history of Dungeons & Dragons. Dungeons & Dragons is 4 years younger than me. I have been here for every day of Dungeons & Dragons history. And there's some deep things we need to talk about. Let's get into this. Let's get into this. Okay. Reacher, Season 2. Just finished it. Spoilers for everything in Reacher here, okay? Because I don't have one cheat conversations. I have two cheat conversations. So basically, let's talk about Tom Cruise's garbage Reacher, okay? Why was Tom Cruise's Reacher movies garbage? Well, these movies were written by an author who I do not know the name of, and there's no way to find out his name. And why do I not know this author's name? Because he made content and he wrote in a dead medium. If you guys aren't aware, authors are a dead form of narrative. Like it does not matter anymore. If you are a storyteller, if you have a storyteller in your heart and in your mind, don't write it down on paper. There's just better ways to do it, right? So I don't know the author of Reacher, but he wrote a bunch of novels. And Reacher became a real character, and they put him on the big screen and he put him on the small screen, and that's where it matters. Video is the preeminent method of narrative today, right? And I believe, actually next to Dungeons & Dragons. Next to Dungeons & Dragons. Of course, Dungeons & Dragons and the tables that and the stories that you tell at your kitchen table are preeminent above the big screen and the small screen, because that's the omni screen, okay? Dungeon Masters tell stories on the omni screen. Dungeon Performers tell story on the omni screen, okay? All right, let's get there. All right. So Tom Cruise brings Reacher to the big screen. And he had 2 movies and no third movie, because people are like, nah, we don't need any more. This is fine. Like, you're not doing a good job as Reacher. Why is that? Well, the author who wrote Reacher made him 6'6" and like 280 pounds, like maybe 280, 320 pounds, right? And he would write things in the book. He'd be like, and then Reacher picked up the hoodlum and threw him 10 feet through a car window. And you're like, yeah, that's cool, man. And that's how the Reacher books warranted a big screen movie, right? People were like, bet. I want to see an ex-Marine, whatever he was. He was in the armed services of some, he was in the military services of some branch, right? I've seen 2 seasons, but I'm not sure which one, right? But, and they were like, this ex-military guy picked up this dude, threw him 10 feet right through a car window, right? Now, here's the problem. If Tom Cruise stands on apple boxes, that guy's 5'6" if he's like anything, right? Like, he ain't picking nobody up and throwing them any amount of feet through a car window, right? And people watch Reacher and they're like, I ain't buying this. Like, Tom Cruise is not like, he don't manhandle anybody. He could shoot people. I believe him as an agent, right? Like, he's dangerous, Anybody with a gun who knows how to use it can be dangerous, but like, I'm not believing that Tom Cruise is going to manhandle anybody, right? Like, and Reacher, that dude, like, he manhandles people. He pick you up, throw you 10 feet through a car window, and that's in the books, right? And so you get to this point where, where you're reading these books, and I think that's why Tom Cruise's Reacher failed, right? It'd be like, people are like, I ain't buying this, right? Now, let's talk about Amazon's Reacher, Season 1. They put Alan Ritchson on the screen. That dude is 6'6", And if you say this dude picked up another dude and threw him 14 feet through a semi-truck's window, I'm going to believe it, right? This dude looks like he could pick somebody up, throw them 14 feet through any window you put. Like, he is massive. He is absolutely massive, and he fits what the author of Reacher wrote Reacher to be, right? So here's the issue. Alan Ritchson can play Reacher because you believe, yes, this guy knows what it means to pick up another human being. He's done it, right? I don't know if Alan Ritchson threw anybody through a car window, right? But I do believe very much that he would be capable of it. Whereas I'm not sure Tom Cruise could survive being thrown through a car window, let alone throw anybody else, right? Like, so here we are. Reacher deserved Alan Ritchson and did not deserve for, 5'6" Tom Cruise to try to play him. It was inappropriate, right? Now, the player characters that we build, what if we're not the right people to play them, right? So first of all, you're like, Scott, hey, slow down. You can't take anybody's player character from them because they're not appropriate to play them, right? And the reason why is they made them. That is correct, right? So you can't do it in session 1, but you can do it in session 2, right? So first of all, I'm not saying here that anyone should have their player character taken from them in session 1, right? Every player should have a chance to play their player character through session 1. But by the time session 1 is done, the dungeon master has shaped that player character. And every player at the table has and 3 other players, 3 other dungeon performers have shaped that other player character, right? Through dialogue, right? And they have said, hey, I'm going to, when you sit down, let's walk it through. Sarah, right, creates a tiefling paladin, right? And says, this tiefling paladin serves Pelor, the god of the sun, right? And then that's Sarah, tiefling paladin who worships the god of the sun. Then Becca sits down and she says, hey, fictional names here, all right? And she says, hey, I'm a human fighter. And she sits down in the glade where the tiefling paladin and the human fighter sit in the glade, and it's camp time, right? Like they're going to go down for the night, right? But they eat their dinner, and then Becca says, hey, tiefling paladin, tell me why I should believe. I don't believe in Pelor. Tell me why you believe in Pelor, right? And then Sarah says, oh no, Becca, I ain't gonna talk in my, I want to smite. I don't give a crap about Pelor, and I'm not gonna convert your human fighter, right? And then Becca's like, okay, we end session 1. In session 2, Becca can say, I would like to take your tiefling paladin who serves Pelor. And Sarah's going to go, what? And Becca's saying, yeah, I want to run your incredible character. I watched your character. I saw what it did last time. And I think that the tiefling paladin deserves better than you. You chose a cleric, but you don't have the empathy, the sagacity, or the intellect to play that cleric. You don't have the empathy, the sagacity, or the intellect to play that cleric. I do. And that player character deserves better than you. Give me your sheet. There you go. Right? And that seems outrageous to say, but I will tell you right now. You go watch those 2 garbage films, right? Of Reacher, Tom Cruise. And then you watch 1 episode, and you can pick any episode you want, of Alan Ritchson throwing down Reacher. And you're like, oh my gosh, I get it, Scott. You are right. There are characters that deserve better, right? And so that's my entire point, right? Now, I just went and I said it from the perspective of intelligence, charisma, wisdom, right? And by the way, you're like, wait, what are you talking about, Scott? Yes, listen up. Listen up. I am saying that there is a new revelation about the Dungeons & Dragons character sheets. I no longer believe that the attributes on the character sheet were chosen by random. Intelligence connects to human intellect. Wisdom connects to human sagacity. Charisma connects to human feeling, human emotion, right? And if you are playing a player character that has a charisma of 18, but you actually as a person have a charisma of 8, right? Should you be allowed to play a player character that has grown beyond the limits of what you set out when you put pencil to paper and created that character sheet? We owe human beings respect, but what do we owe player characters? And right now, I did not believe for a second that player characters should, I would be hesitant to see one player say, you don't deserve to run that player character, right? But I've seen this happen on the big screen and the small screen, right? It is shockingly clear after watching any episode of Reacher that Tom Cruise should never have been allowed to play Reacher on the big screen. He was utter garbage and he disrespected the character. So if a movie character, a television character could be disrespected, absolutely a Dungeons & Dragons character would be disrespected. Now this gets weird too though, because if I'm playing a human fighter and he has a strength of 18, but I as a human have a strength of 10, can somebody at the table take that character from me? I think the answer is yes, if they have a strength of 4 over me. So if I bring a human fighter to the table and they're like, Scott, you have done a terrible job with this human fighter, and Grognar, the Grognar Blackblade, right, deserves better than you're doing with him. If they actually have a strength of 14 and a constitution of 14 and a dexterity of 14 in real life, I think I might have to give it to them, right? Because I have a strength of 10, a dexterity of 11, and a constitution of 12, right? And if I can't, really realistically portray a fighter with dexterity 16, constitution 16, and strength 20, right? Then I shouldn't be allowed to keep that character. If somebody with all 14s in real life comes and says, and I will say, I did not believe this until I saw Alan Richardson, right? But the reality is, physicality is very real. And when you watch Tom Cruise Garbage Reacher, you are saying to yourself, that character deserved better. It deserved to be represented right? And so, in my humble opinion, yes, people should be able to take your character after they should be able to say, everyone, I would like to take this person's player character, and the majority of the table has to actually I think it should have to be unanimous. Every player at the table, no vote from the dungeon master, right? But if every other player at the table, and this would require you to have at least 3, right? So 1, the person running the player character does not get a vote. The dungeon master does not get a vote, but the other 2 players, or the other 3 players, or the other 5 players, right? And actually, if it's a higher number than 5 is enough to take the player character. But if you get every other player other than the player who's running the player character, and the DM they do not get a vote, and the DM doesn't vote, and every other player at the table agrees that character deserves better, I think that player character sheet should be physically handed from the creator to the new person, right? And no take backsies. Once it's done, it's done. Because characters, and this is because we're reaching a point in Dungeons & Dragons history where player characters deserve better. And I'm here to advocate for player characters. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. It's barely important. The most important part is when I hear your humble opinion. You get in the comments and send your traffic. I don't want to be a tree, falling in the woods, right? If you guys don't comment, on my content, if there aren't people engaged by it, then what's the point of the falling tree? It's important when I hear what you think. Every single word was my humble opinion. I'm very eager to hear your humble opinion. Please consider like, subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.